In the working world, mistakes are totally inevitable. But lucky for you, your workplace mishaps probably weren't caught on camera, like the unfortunate folk I've rounded up for you today. There'll be forklift frenzies, smashes, spills, and monumental messes that'll make you realize that your worst day at work wasn't so bad after all. Let's clock in for some total idiots at work. To kick things off, let's begin with this hilariously unlucky workplace klutz who was just about finished constructing an indoor Halloween-themed maze before disaster struck. Damn, I totally feel his pain. The whole thing slowly, unstoppably collapsing before his very eyes. Like some cruel, twisted Rube Goldberg machine. That said, despite the catastrophe, he actually managed to rebuild the whole maze just before it was due to open to the public. Hopefully a little more securely this time around. But not all workplace dolts are quite so harmless. Case in point, when a former Popeyes employee allegedly didn't get paid for a month's work, he took matters quite literally into his own hands. Those poor defenseless biscuits. I mean, it's one way to get your point across, I guess. Though arguably not the most effective, considering that he obviously lost his job and was arrested. Which is pretty understandable given how he not only destroyed tons of stock, but even raided the cash register and cut some electricity cords. But as if this guy wasn't already idiotic enough, it turned out according to a statement from Popeyes, the reason he wasn't paid was because he actually refused to provide his bank details and demanded cash in hand. So essentially he refused to let them pay him, then got angry when they didn't pay him. So then wrecked the place, because that makes perfect sense. Keeping things in the fast food lane, when this group of employees were taking out the trash, they decided to have a little fun and make a game of it. This, as you'll see, soon backfired.
Ready, Adam?
How far should I do it from?
Right there, right there. Well, hold on.
Try work! Whoa!
Oh!
What the?
Oh
Perfect shot if you ask me. That said, my heart does go out to the fella who was showered in garbage juice. On to a different profession now, and when it comes to painting and decorating, there's a certain kind of patience and precision needed. If you don't have either of those, there's plenty of opportunity for disaster. For example, this paint tub massacre that occurred in a hardware store after a worker attempted to move a pallet of paint. I think I can smell the smoke coming from the person who just got fired. A similar calamity occurred right outside someone's apartment, only on a much larger scale. What the? How? Just how? While it might look as if this paint was squirted from the high heavens, a ground shot shows that a crane was actually carrying the load until, well, it wasn't. Oopsie. From one paint splat to the next, our next idiotic worker, otherwise known as Megan, made the rookie error of not securing the lid on the paint mixing machine, arguably the most important step, which Megan certainly found out the hard way. It was probably at the point of Megan's metamorphosis into a Simpsons character that her boss thought, we really should stop hiring teenagers. But if Megan got a showering of paint, then this next guy got absolutely drowned in it, thanks to a cruel prank by his work pals.
Đâu đi em? Freaks, look at the finger prints out there. Get out! John, all over my fishing gear, mate. Mate, that's a
I don't how much it was. You
that's a
look
time.
at the to me.
That's a time rat there, mate.
My life.
What's the matter?
You.
What happened?
You're the matter.
Look at all my clothes, John.
Look at all your clothes.
John.
Hit the brakes on this. It's like ice on here. Sit still. You ran up. You shot me into them tubs of paint, which are, by the way, all cracked. Help me out.
I ain't level you out, mate. Alright, I'll leave you in there, alright?
Wow, my editor nearly broke his wrist there, censoring all that cussing. Call me crazy guys, but I don't think John quite got the joke. Almost as if being marinated in white paint wasn't funny to him. Yep, after the driver abruptly hit the brakes, poor John was catapulted into a tub of paint, dipped, flipped, and tossed until he wound up looking like Casper the not-so-friendly ghost. Moving on up now, and in my search for workplace mishaps, there was one thing that just kept cropping up. Forklift disasters, which is pretty concerning considering that in the US anyone operating a forklift is legally required to have completed training for an official forklift operator certification. And well, let's just say this next person's first day on the job didn't go great. Yeah, what you're seeing is, or rather was, a pallet of glass worth $40,000. Yeah, I doubt this guy made it past his probationary period. Similarly, just check out this bumbling fool from all the way back in 2007 who somehow managed to maneuver his forklift into smashing 2,000 beer bottles. All in a day's work. Seems to me like he might have had a tipple of beer himself before getting behind the wheel. Don't worry, buddy. I always have a drink while I work. Heck, I'm even drinking right now. But on to the next. And the bottle smashing only gets worse, as you can see here in what appears to be thousands of bottles getting absolutely obliterated. No biggie. I'm sure the boss won't notice, right? Just like how we'd better hope the business owner of this place doesn't notice some minor damage to their prized water feature. Think you might have spilled something there, bud. And as if we haven't already seen enough proof that forklifts are best used slow and steady, this next video exemplifies that point to the maximum. Seriously, who lets these people get behind the wheel? And why was that guy backing up so fast? Hundreds of bottles smashed, just like this guy's hopes of ever being Employee of the Month. In a similar mishap, one forklift driver veered slightly off track, only in doing so took the whole shelf with him. Yikes, he was lucky to walk away safe and unscathed. Likewise, whoever was responsible for this keeled-over forklift could have done some serious damage to themselves, not to mention their pride. A brush with destruction really does put into perspective what a bad day at work actually looks like. Whoa, what's this? It's only our brand new fun and frantic trivia card game we've been developing for years. We've packed it full of all our most interesting facts, and whenever another player thinks you're wrong, they can cut you off with a catastrophic nuh-uh. Steal your opponent's cards and risk your own and nuh-uh. And if trivia isn't your strong suit, don't worry. All the questions in Nuh-Uh are multiple choice, meaning eggheads and non-eggheads alike stand a chance. Crazy game-altering powers like switcheroo, flip-flop, and piggyback add extra layers of strategy, deception, and chaos to the experience. We've toiled playtesting and tweaking Nuh-Uh for countless hours, and each and every game was its own fun, wacky adventure. Oh, and we've designed and printed it to perfection. Look, that's me on the box over there. So what are you waiting for? Nuh-Uh is the perfect stocking stuffer this Christmas. Beat the hordes and click the link in the description or on screen now to order your copy today. And for a limited time, you can get the base game and the Science and Nature expansion pack adding over 200 more questions for only $25. That's a whopping 25% discount for our quickest, most loyal fans only. Click the link in the description or on screen now to order your copy today. Our stock is limited, so order now while supplies last. Okay, now let's get back to your regularly scheduled programming. And on the topic of tipped forklifts, our next idiotic worker must have skipped the lesson about checking the weight of a load before lifting it high. Like a glove. I'm sorry, but who was recording this video and laughing at the end? Toad from Super Mario? Maybe stick to kart racing instead of construction work, huh, Toad? Keeping things vehicular now, I'm about to prove to you that machines can be just as culpable in workplace idiocy as humans. Admittedly, usually due to them being operated by idiots. Check this clip out where we see a fancy mechanical trash can grabber go completely awry. Okay, so we've reviewed your performance, and while we definitely don't think you're good at your job, we do admire your perseverance. And perseverance is definitely a desirable attribute to have, especially if, like these police officers, you're tasked with chasing down a fugitive emu for 20 miles. Occurring in, of course, Tennessee, the emu called Mimu was one of 2 emus owned by Harry McKinney and his wife Dana. Having been spooked by a dog, Mimu leapt over his 7-foot enclosure and was on the run. And while the police did an excellent job of getting Mimu back home within an hour, you can't help but consider how silly they must have felt slowly chasing down an emu at a snail's pace. Justice served. Taxpayer money? Well spent. But if you want to hear about stupid police officers, then allow me to introduce you to a now ex-officer, Andrew Gray from the UK. Back in 2023, Andrew requested some time off work for a trip overseas. However, this was not granted, and it was made abundantly clear that he had to work. But with complete disregard to his orders, Andrew went ahead and took his trip anyway, conveniently calling in sick the morning of his shift. Long story short, Andrew's whole "I'm sick" lie was abundantly obvious given that he had very clearly asked his boss for the vacation time off. Unsurprisingly, he was duly fired. You'd think as a police officer he'd know a thing or two about a foolproof alibi, but alas, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. And while we're on the topic of policing rules and regulations, in the US a yellow curb typically indicates a no parking zone. Granted, it's annoying when people park in these spots, but it takes a special kind of idiot to think this is deserving of vandalism as a form of punishment. Admittedly, though, the viral image is pretty hilarious. However, I'm not too convinced that this isn't a Photoshop job. And if not, well, I'm pretty confident that this guy won't be parking in any yellow zones again. Likewise, the owners of these 2 cars might think twice about their parking decisions in the future, lest their cars be attacked by some maniac road paint workers. But of all the idiots with paint that we've seen so far, these next 2 guys arguably take the prize. This bright pair attempted to spray paint a bike, with one of them holding the bike with no gloves on, allowing his hands to be completely covered in luminous yellow paint. Fair to say I lost a few brain cells just by looking at this. I shudder to think how much brain matter these 2 collectively lost from those paint fumes. Ever heard of a respirator, fellas? But when the world's idiots aren't making extreme messes with paint, you might find them doing the same with cement. Yep, in an extremely unfortunate incident, the idiot responsible for this concrete truck accidentally took a big gray dump on some poor person's car. A similar thing happened to me in 9th grade after a Taco Bell. Okay, long story, don't ask. Anyway, I'm sure if they leave a sorry note, it'll all be fine. Speaking of which, I'm sure this next guy was really sorry after making quite the mess in the kitchen, right before closing time. Check it out. Oopsie. Worst of all, just take notice how it's not even the numbskull who made the mess who's cleaning it up. Well played, Mr. Oil Spiller. Well played. While on the topic, another oily disaster occurred when a store worker somehow cleared an entire display of olive oil. As if working in retail wasn't already hellish enough. Just imagine turning up to your shift and finding this. Now, spilling oil is one thing, but booze? Well, that should be a punishable crime if you ask me. Granted, bartending can be a stressful job, but after seeing this next clip, the only tip I'd give this guy is to try and be a bit less of an idiot. When we ordered shots, we didn't mean for you to literally shoot our drinks at us. I mean, accidents happen, but I think this guy forgot that it's the customers who are supposed to do the tipping, not him. Likewise, this next bartender at the old Storehouse pub in Dublin left his customers less than satisfied when he attempted to serve them their beverages. Check it out. I think we know who's buying the next round. Still, the gents took it in their stride and the apologetic bartender worked on fixing them up some new drinks. Only as he did, well, I won't spoil it for you. Take a look for yourself. Seriously, who hired this guy? Continuing with the beer spilling mayhem, take a look at this hilarious clip of a liquor store manager who got himself into a bit of a pickle when putting away the delivery. Yep, that ginger beer went out of stock again real quick. Not a great time for this guy to have been wearing sandals either. Sticky toes. But if you ever feel like you've screwed up at work, just remember it could always be worse. You could be the pet store worker who dropped all these fish on the floor. I think the worst part is, rather than try and salvage some of the fish's lives, this guy decided to take a picture. Oh my god, the fish are dying. Quick, someone take a picture. My faith in humanity truly is lost. But when you run a YouTube channel like mine, you soon learn that there are seemingly no limits to human stupidity. And if you need proof, just look no further than this image, which shows a worker sticking his entire body down a manhole, while his colleague holds his legs. I don't know who these guys work for, but I can guarantee this wasn't part of the safety briefing. Likewise, this numbskull here was caught mindlessly using an electric handsaw to chop a piece of wood on his knee. Because there's absolutely no way that could go horrifically wrong. But as the saying goes, stupid is as stupid does. In a similar occurrence of humans functioning with an extreme deficit of intelligence, check out this image of one worker using his pal's back as a makeshift sawing table. That said, while it might look as if he's about to give him a surgical butt crack extension, I think we can safely assume this one is a joke. Or at least I hope it is. Now, in my quest to find the most idiotic idiots at work, that is, besides my own colleagues, I found an alarming number of images showing people setting up ladders in the most precarious positions. For example, just take a look at this setup. Yeah, there simply isn't enough money in the world you could pay me to get on that death trap. However, thinking about it in terms of physics, this is technically no different than, say, climbing a normal ladder that is propped against a wall from the ground. It's perhaps just the idea of potentially plummeting to your death down a great void that seems a little off-putting. Be that as it may, this guy was so fearless that he propped his ladder up between two buildings, not to mention without a harness or any safety precautions. That's a lot of trust in the ladder stability. There truly is a very fine line between what's brave and what's just plain old stupid. From one ladder to the next, this one at least had the benefit of support from a friend. Hey, that's what friends are for, right? That said, one wrong move and they're both going down. But if one friend wasn't enough, then how's 4? What's more, this seems to be happening in a church, which may explain why these guys have so much faith in their ladder holding skills. But wait, there's even more. Lay your disbelieving eyes upon this fella who had the not-so-genius idea to not only climb up an excavator and then prop a ladder from it to the tree, but then place another ladder from one of the trunks. I have so many questions. Moving on, at what point in putting up this Think Safety First banner do you think this guy realized the irony of the whole situation? My only hope is that this was done as a joke, otherwise I don't think this guy is in any position to be spreading messages about safety. But if you thought things couldn't get any more anti-health and safety, then I'm afraid, my friend, that's where you're totally wrong. I mean, just take a look at this guy who decided to balance himself between a railing and a scaffolding with absolutely no visible safety gear. Well, besides his hard hat, though I can't imagine that'd do much to save his life in the event of falling hundreds of feet below. He's scarily close to featuring in one of my Darwin Award videos. Now, we often throw around the phrase of having someone's back, but I can tell you these images of builders using one another's spinal columns as ladders aren't what I had in mind. What's puzzling me the most is how on earth this guy got into this position in the first place without falling flat on his face. With that kind of skill, someone ought to sign this guy up for Team USA in the Olympics. Stepping off the ladders and spines now, and this next guy was a little more creative in his approach to elevation, as he was spotted fixing a light fitting by being hoisted up in a sandbag by a crane. I guess you could call it a real light bulb moment. This next builder, however, wasn't quite the brightest bulb, having been caught attempting to build a wall by placing the bricks in straight lines. Now, to be fair to him, this is a recognized method known as the stack bond, but as you can see on the lower wall, they were clearly going for a half-running bond, which is the most common bricklaying method thanks to its structural strength. Speaking of structural integrity, or lack thereof, this image of a power line held together by duct tape doesn't exactly fill me with confidence. Props to the tape though, it does seem to be somewhat holding it together. On the topic of fragile things, this next clip shows someone having their new TV delivered, which was clearly marked as being fragile. Nevertheless, some jerk of a FedEx delivery driver completely disregarded this and haphazardly tossed the box around as if it were a basketball. Just take a look. It's pretty shocking. I mean, what a jackass. Treating any package with that much disregard is completely unacceptable, let alone a fragile TV. Karen mode, activate! Now that is someone's manager I would certainly like to speak to. Your employee is such an idiot that he literally made it into a YouTube video titled Total Idiots at Work. But if you want to see some real good customer service, then just feast your eyes on this next clip. It's always so nice when service workers go that extra mile. Needless to say that customer satisfaction was at an all-time low here. With a similar no F's given attitude, just look at this image one unlucky person was sent by DoorDash as a supposed delivery confirmation. Really seems like they took the dash part a bit too literal and the door part not quite enough. Kinda reminds me of the I take a bite DoorDash delivery driver. Classic. I mean, I guess his honesty is to be admired, right? Delivery drivers are only human though, and accidents are bound to happen. For example, one family were having their brand new $4,200 refrigerator delivered until, well, the delivery driver made a slight oopsie.
who you wait, bro? Don't we wait and set together, bro? That's you.
Yikes. Like I said, accidents happen, but moving a huge ass fridge all by yourself? Now that's stupidity if I ever saw it. Indeed, that was also the case when this delivery truck got stuck under a bridge that clearly displayed height limitations and said in huge writing, "Low Bridge." Ironically, with the company being a DIY store, the truck had the slogan, "You can do it" on it. And well, it seems the truck took its own affirmation too seriously. Let this be a lesson, children. You can't always do it. Stop believing in yourself. Give up on your dreams. Anyway, on to another questionable delivery, and whoever thought it was a good idea to load this car into the back of a truck clearly put a lot of faith into that flimsy yellow belt. Yeah, let's just say I'd be staying firmly in the left-hand lane, well away from that death trap. But at least it's still secured better than the forklift in the back of this truck. Now correct me if I'm wrong here, but something tells me that wasn't supposed to happen. Stupidity, as we've seen, comes in all different shapes and sizes, and our next idiot decided to show off his lack of brain cells by driving his truck into a huge puddle he clearly underestimated. Now, there are vehicles out there in the world that are designed to handle driving in deep water, but you're never supposed to enter at that kind of speed. I think this driver mistook driving for diving. And is it just me, or does it look like the dashboard filled with water on impact? Flooded dash or dramatic reflection in the windshield? Let me know what you think in the comments below. But sticking with people who certainly shouldn't be behind the wheel, take a look at this incident that occurred in an airport. I don't know what actually happened, but I like to imagine someone was running really late for their flight, so they had to hijack a buggy and wound up crashing into the travelator. Or the person driving just zoned out for a minute, much like this employee who was hard at work washing the dishes when she zoned out and autopilot led her to do something pretty dumb. I guess that's a lesson learned the hard way about having no phones in the kitchen. Likewise, another guy made a similar mistake when he accidentally dropped his phone in the fryer. Oh yeah, cooling it down in the water probably isn't gonna save it, buddy. I don't remember deep-fried iPhone being on the menu. But once you've chowed down on those delicious fried lithium ions, why not wash them down with some refreshing lemon water? Whichever bozo was responsible for this clearly didn't quite understand how lemon water works. If anything, the water probably just tasted slightly waxy thanks to the wax that grocery store lemons are often coated in. Yummy. The same lack of understanding can be seen in this next image where, pretty evidently, some poor woman must have misunderstood how the shredder worked. Having walked away with a free haircut and presumably not a good one, we can assume that this wasn't the best day at the office for her. But days at the office, or rather home office, don't come much worse than this next one. And a word of warning, if you're planning on mentally checking out from the Zoom call, at least make sure your camera is actually off.
Hey, I'm just gonna, my connection's really bad, and I don't really have much input, so I'm just gonna mute myself and,
Okay, no problem.
Are we wanting to shortlist them?
We do want to shortlist them, but we're just waiting for the audition tapes to see who's going to be better.
Yeah.
So we've already sorted out location. It's been booked and paid for.
Sorry, I got distracted there. Holly, you know your camera's not off yet. I don't know what that was. We did see it.
sorry guys, my connection just really,
You're still online?
Still see you.
Yikes. Talk about an awkward moment. Though I kinda respect the overall vibe. If you're not though, because if that made you almost die of cringe, I can reveal that it was probably staged. Posted to TikTok by a marketing company called Black Camel Agency, it seems likely that this in and of itself was perhaps clever marketing. And I'd say they succeeded given that it has over 6 million views. Sticking with some awkward office moments now, and one poor woman lived everyone's worst nightmare when she was the only one to show up to the office in costume on Halloween. And you might be thinking maybe it's not that bad, maybe she was a cute witch or skeleton. Well, you'd be wrong. She came as a banana. She showed up as a banana to an office full of regularly dressed colleagues, and you know what though? I kinda respect it. Sure, she might have felt like a total idiot, but she definitely won the best personality competition. She seems like a very appealing person. And with that, I'm afraid that's all for today. Let me know down in the comments what's the stupidest thing you or someone you know has ever done at work. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.